everybody. Welcome to Gimme A Song. My name is Jeff Phipps. I am your host for the day. The point of the podcast is to invite my friends on and talk to them about a song that means something to them. So today I brought on my friend.
Hi, guys. I'm Eric Rueseler. I'm a comedian here in St. Louis. I've known you,
Few years now. 4 years, roughly.
5-ish years. Yeah.
4 or 5 years, depending on if you count the pandemic or not.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
So
I definitely count the pandemic. Basically, if my friendship with you survived the pandemic, we're golden. All right, I don't know if you like me that much, but we're here for life. Okay.
Oh no, I like you plenty. So Eric, I don't know. You said you've listened to a couple shows, but you didn't know that we got sponsors now. All right.
Oh yeah.
So we have a live sponsor every week. We have a new sponsor. Amazingly, these people are just shelling out money to be on Gimme A Song. God bless them. So Eric, do you suffer from mild eye spasms?
Constantly.
Well, good news for people like you and other people who do. There's new Athena. Athena prevents and stops mild eye spasms where they start. At the eye. So you should talk to your doctor today to see if Athena is right with you. Side effects include one or more of the following: homelessness, loss of earwax, obsession with turkeys, narcissism. Also, contact your doctor immediately if you start having thoughts of home renovations. And this may cause major eye spasms.
Well, you know what? It's because they're mild that I don't like them.
Yeah.
If they were major, I'd be like, okay, this is a problem that I have to deal with today. But a mild eye spasm, you're like, it's just annoying.
It's manageable if it's major.
It's like a hangnail. Yeah, you still have to go to work, but it's inconvenient. You know what I mean?
It is really
So it's like, if I'm going to have an eye spasm, I want an eye spasm. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear.
Right,
okay?
No, absolutely. I feel like my eye, if I feel like my eye is about to fall out, like I said, just completely manageable. Athena, stop eye spasms now. So there's our today's sponsor is Athena for mild eye spasms.
Well, Athena, next time I'm on my 700th milligram of caffeine for the day, and my wife calls me and is like, hey, our daughter backed into the mailbox, and that little thing starts twitching, I'm going to think of you. So shout out Athena, doing the Lord's work.
Yes. You are a St. Louis comic, like you said. You are literally everywhere at this point. I don't think I can see a flyer without you being in the background somewhere in it, or pictures of events where you in the background. What would you say is your major accomplishment thus far as a stand-up comic?
Major accomplishment.
Yeah. What are you most proud of, I guess, would be another way to put it.
Man, that's so weird because it's like, I don't know. The comic in me wanted to do say something funny and be like, I got a hot 2 new minutes the other night at Smashem's Burger Bar, and I was like, woo, let's go. I can't wait to take this to the Helium or the Funny Bone. But no, seriously, a big moment was just recently. I did a show at the Funny Bone, and I was featuring, and there was 8 people there. Thursday night, light turnout. It was right after the big snowstorm or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went up there, and it's not the show you want to do, but it's the show you got. And so I just went up and had fun. And afterwards, one of the people came up to me and was like, hey, man, you were really funny. Mm-hmm. You're going to be headlining soon. Yeah. And it's like, he's just Joe Blow, doesn't know anything about comedy, whatever. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. I don't think you realize, damn, that made my whole week. Yeah. You know what I mean? I called my wife and was like, babe, this guy said he thinks he's going to be, and she's like, oh, cool. Does he work at the club? No, he's probably an electrician. Yeah, he doesn't know anything about comedy. But he said he really
probably knows more about comedy than,
Maybe he does. Yeah. But it's like that, and honestly, it sounds weird, and it's like I got to work with a lot of really cool headliners that have come through, and George Wallace, who's comedy legend.
Absolutely.
He told me I was funny, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. Appreciate it. I got to hang out with Big J Okerson for a little bit, which is one of the guys. When I started comedy, I was like, this is who I like. And it's like just to meet him, and he's cool, just a cool dude, you know. And he was like, we laughed, we like riffed a couple jokes, and then it was like, all right, man, it was good to meet you, and like move on. It's like that's a great moment. But to have that one dude on a Thursday night just be like, man, you're gonna be headline soon. I was like, no,
it's better for like. I personally take compliments better from people who aren't comics,
right?
Because it's like you paid money, you had a good time, you feel good about this. You know, I've been putting on a show for 2 years now in Belleville, Illinois, and it's like people come up to me afterwards.
Margaritas. Shout out Margaritas.
Yeah. We got posters for the February event today, so I get to go put out posters this weekend. I'm pretty excited.
Dude.
But I'm one of the few people who actually puts out posters still. Like I go to town.
Works.
It does work.
It works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I ran a show in Nashville with a buddy of mine who lives there and works there. He's a comic. And one day I was like, hey man, let's just go bark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is what hey,
that's the term.
We got a show. You give out 200 flyers. Of those 200, 25 people might show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're dealing with 10% either way. But that's 25 more people than would have come, you know? And it's like, you've done shows for probably 2 people.
I've done shows for a very minimal crowd.
Yeah. So it's like when 25 people show up, you're like, hot damn, we're about to have some. This is a crowd.
Yeah.
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? We're going to do this. This is awesome.
We have anywhere from, we sold out last Valentine's Day, and I'm anticipating a sellout this year. Fingers crossed, of course, you know, knock on wood. Assuming this is wood. But my point, and then we've had crowds as small as like 10. And I've taken a beating on those 10. But those 10 people had a good time, you know, and it's like, you know, like I said, I've been, and people who listen regularly, the constant listener, I'm going to call them from now on. People who listen to the podcast know, like, I've been kind of talking about this as I've been filming episodes. It's like I just don't have time to be in every, like you said, you hadn't seen me in a while, and I was like, yeah, it's been 2 months, you know, and I miss it. But it's like at the same time, it's like I'm so busy with so much other stuff going on, you know, real life, you know, not the hobby, you know, the hobby I'm trying to convert into something else. It's like, and it's just like I'm busy is what I got to do, you know. So it's like
it's so annoying when real life gets in the way of like what you want to do, and you're like, ugh,
not again,
not again. Ugh.
We'll get back to your 2 minutes though. Like I love when I'm excited to tell a new joke. Like you still get excited, like when you're like, oh man, this is gonna, and then it's like one of two things happen. It forks immediately. It's like, okay, there's something here, and I'm gonna build it, or it's like, why did I even go up and say this at all?
It's that exciting feeling,
you
know, where you're like, ooh, do I pull the trigger on this?
Yeah, no, you got to do it.
Yeah. I did a show in Cincinnati one time, and from my house to the club was 6.5 hours.
Yeah, because you live south of here, like an hour south.
I live 2 hours south.
2 hours south. Yeah, we're at Ballpark Village. Just FYI, we're recording in fancy Ballpark Village. So I wore the Cardinals shirt today to represent.
I appreciate it. If you had shown up at anything else, you probably weren't allowed in.
That's fine.
Just so you know. No. I did interview somebody one time, and they wore a Cubs thing, and I was like, "Hey man, security said you can't come in," and they were like, "Really?" And I was like, "No, but why would you why
would you wear that here?"
I was like, "All right, I respect you rep your set. Let's go," but whatever. No, I live 2 hours south of here, so from my house to Cincinnati, 6.5 hour drive basically, and I went up there and I did 4 minutes, and it was like meh. But I had one new joke that I tried out, and it worked. And the entire 6.5 hour drive back, I was like, "Oh, this has legs." Like, I was like, "Oh, I was excited, and I was like, "Okay, what else could I take it from here?
Yeah,
what what angle? How do I make this grow? You know?" And then I don't know. I was just so excited about that. Lost probably $180. You know, from
round trip,
gas round trip plus food plus, whatever, you know, and it's like, that was a complete, everybody else would be like, that's a waste of time and money. And it's like, no, not to me.
Yeah, when it pays off, in theory, when it pays off, then you can justify it. Everyone's like, "This is why."
Yeah.
If it never does, it's like, "But this was why." It's still, I still got something out of it.
I thought it would be fun to maybe have film a comic sitting down with an accountant at the end of the year and having the accountant be like, "You spent $400 at Casey's convenience store." And you're like, "Hear me out."
Yeah.
I needed, right. And they're like, "Can you justify it helped you with work?" And it's like, "Can you justify it didn't help me with work?"
Right. Who knows what I got out of that?
Yeah. I wrote a 5-minute bit on cheese after that, so
it was the best 5 minutes ever.
Yeah. What about you? What comedy highlights? What's
well, I run the show. I don't get the kind of work that a lot of people who have been on here do. I've had a lot of headliners. I've had a lot of features. Yeah. So I don't have the same kind of highlights. People tell me I'm funny, which all the time. And you did actually recently when you introduced me, and I was just like, I have no perception of. It's hard to see yourself. So it's like when people so it's like I got that going for me. I just don't have the time to so highlights. I've hosted at Helium a couple times. They let me host the open mic, which is still it's not nothing. I get paid. It's nice to get paid. It's nice to be seen. It's nice when other people compliment me. People have been reaching out about the podcast, so it's like a highlight. It's like, yeah, I'll come on and do your podcast. Like people I wouldn't have thought, have come on so far. I've had a lot of people, like Will O'Donnell agreed to do it before it was even a thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you, and that's an example. So those are my victories. Like I said last week, I was talking to the previous person, and it was Chris Sweet, who was a very good guest. It's like once I get settled, then it's full court press. I'll have 5 or 6 years under my belt, and I'll really kind of know what I want and how to get it. You know what I'm saying? It's now I don't have time to be in bookers' faces and be like, hey, can you book me 2 weeks from now to host here? That kind of thing. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating for 2 years. I was just seething. Yeah. Constantly seething. And now it's I'm in a good place mentally about it, but it's all right, I understand what I'm doing in terms of why things are stalled or where they're at. So I don't have the highlights I'd love to say I'd have. I will give you one. I will. I taught famously. Some people still think I am a teacher. A lot of people don't know I'm not. And I don't talk about my work because it's inconsequential to this.
Keep your world separate. I get it.
But I taught, and the school that I taught at had a school shooting, and one of my friends was murdered. And the Central CVPA school shooting 2 years ago, that was the school I taught at for 13 years. And I really didn't have a name in comedy or anything like that. And I was able to put on a show at the Dodzak Theater. Will headlined. And I had Molly, and I had Emily Zell, and I had Chad Wallace, and Jeremy Helwig. That was my lineup, and we made $2,000, and we donated it back to the school. That's my highlight. There you go.
That's great. I mean, pause. That was terrible. Yeah. What happened, but that you were able to turn it, and bring happiness out of arguably the worst, circumstance. Yeah. See, that's the great thing about comedy is that it's oh man, this sucks. The world sucks. 90% of the time. It's why I don't listen to the news anymore.
I don't blame you.
I let other people tell me what's going on. I didn't watch a single minute of the inauguration, I didn't watch anything about it, but I've had people tell me well, and then Elon did a Nazi salute, and then it's and then other people are no, it wasn't a Nazi salute. And so I'm sitting back and I'm just listening to what people are telling me, and it doesn't give me that anxiety and that dread. Right. We watch the news and it's I don't know if you guys heard, but today was the worst day that's ever happened. Did you know that? And tomorrow it's going to be 10 times worse.
10 times worse.
And you're what? What? I thought yesterday was bad. And he's yesterday was easy. Today is the worst. And you're I can't deal with this anymore. So it's I tune that out.
I don't blame you.
But it's great that when something bad does happen, or when there's a tragedy, it's like, hey, what can I do? Mm-hmm. I don't know how to build a rocket ship, but if you fill a room full of people, I can make you laugh for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Will that make your day better? Will that make you happy? Will that make you kind of like, okay, there's good in the world. Okay, cool. Then let's go do that. You know, it's like, and it's like, how do I do more of that?
Yeah.
You know,
that's what we all want to do, though. Like all of us who go and tell jokes. You know, it's like, how do I get this out of my system?
Yeah.
And how do I make you feel better? You know.
Well, I don't know if you have this or not, but like there are times where I've made jokes and I've had people like they were looking at me and they were like, how do you come up with this stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't understand. The hard part is turning it off.
Yeah.
The hard part is being serious and like
not
attentive
doing a bit to people all the time.
Yeah, and it's like the other day I forgot who I was talking to. It was important too. I think yeah, it was. I was talking to this guy, and I mean I'm dyslexic, ADHD, whatever, and he was talking numbers and percentages, and he's like 5-year plan and blah 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 blah, and you know, I mean, he was giving it his speech and everything, and I'm just sitting there nodding along, and he was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, do you think seaweed knows it's seaweed, or is it just kind of like just hanging out? You know what I mean? Like, and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "My bad, man. Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. What did you need from me about this?" And he's like, "Just sign it." And I'm like, "Okay." And then, yeah, my wife gets so mad at me. She's like, I'll tell her like, "Hey, I've got a meeting with this person or this person," and she'll be like, "Do not sign anything until either I or my dad, who's an accountant, has read it." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And she's like, "Remember, if there's numbers, don't sign." Yeah. Because as soon as people start talking numbers, I'm like, okay,
and then
cool.
They just stick something in your feet and you just sign. It's just automatic.
Oh man, that sounds like fun. Yeah. You're telling me that you've got a 10-year-old Dodge Charger out there and you're gonna let me drive it around, and all I have to do is give you like 27% of the interest that I owe you is just okay. Man, this thing looks fast. You know what I mean?
That is the perfect military car. That is going to transition us perfectly here.
I had a Dodge Charger.
I believe you. So here on Gimme A Song, I ask people to give me a song, and then I have to make the offer of, do you want to know the backstory or not? If you don't, it's okay. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, you know Larry Smith from Springfield?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Yes,
absolutely. All right, perfect. So one night after a show at Apotheosis, we went out for drinks. Me, him, and Tom. The three of us can kick them back. Is maybe you're well aware of or not.
Tom
Brown.
Oh, yeah.
So we were...
R.I.P. Tom Brown. He didn't die, but he moved to Minnesota, and it's the same thing.
In Michigan. Same difference. Yeah. Some cold state I'll never go. So we were sitting there. He had a Drive-By Trucker shirt on, which is a band. And I was like, oh, I've seen them live. I didn't care for it. And he's like, oh, he stopped me. He's like, no, you got to listen to this song. And I was like, okay, well, then you got to listen to this song. I'm speeding it up. I've told this story a lot. And then, like, I don't know, 7 months later, I was like, it just stuck with me. And I was like, man, I could just do this. Like, I want to know what people listen to. Like, I'm genuinely curious on, like, what people care about in terms of music. And I want to know why. So that's the story. So what was the song you gave me?
The song I gave you was, which is so funny because you asked me for a song and I was like, just one?
Yes.
Because it's like...
I get that a lot. What I will get sometimes is people will send me 3 or 4 songs and they'll be like, you pick. And I'm like, no, this isn't how this works at all.
Yeah.
It's like, give me a song. It's a song, not give me songs.
Yeah, right.
I do want to interrupt you before you tell me the song. So there's going to be a cutaway real quick and a QR code on the YouTube version, on the Spotify version. You can listen to the song. I put links to the songs in the description so you can check them out. These are pretty famous songs, so you maybe don't have to necessarily listen to these two, but FYI, you should, just in case. And we're going to talk about the videos a little bit too, so you might want to check those those out too. Those links will be there as well. So anyway, what was the song?
That's a great idea, by the way. Putting the QR code and the links to so that people can be like, all right, what song are they talking about?
Well, that way I don't get YouTube striked. I don't have money to pay for the song.
We can't stream it, without paying royalties.
Correct.
But no, great idea.
Thanks.
So my song is All These Things That I've Done by The Killers.
Yeah.
Which I have is absolutely. Most people would say I have terrible taste in music. Like Ben Johnson, he could not understand me because we drove to Texas one time, 17 hours, and I was just sitting there in silence, and he was like, "Dude,
you drove him?"
Yeah, I drove my car,
and you didn't play a single song.
And he and Alex Hayes were in my car, and we just talked for the majority of the time. We talked, and then every now and then he'd be like, "Let me play you this song." I'd be like, "Okay," and we would listen to it, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is nice."
Yeah.
But,
that was it.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
cool. I have to have music on all the time. I have headphones on constantly.
Really?
Like whenever I'm working at home, I work from home. I always have a pair of headphones on. I'm always listening to something.
I do like that. I like a little bit of background noise, but I don't want to go through and make a playlist.
Oh, I just add songs to playlists.
One of the things that I love is if you go to YouTube and you just type in lo-fi beats.
You're the person who keeps them going.
Yeah. Because it's great background. It's just it's nice. It's subtle. It's a recognizable tune, but no lyrics. So you're not getting sidetracked or whatever. And you can kind of just get lost in the flow of things. Yeah. And I love things like that. So anyway, what I was saying is I have terrible taste in music. Probably, if people, I don't know if people like The Killers or not.
I love The Killers.
I've always liked them. I always just kind of like whatever they're doing. But the reason I chose this in particular is because when I was on my second deployment.
So let people know your background, because if they don't.
I was in the Marines 6 years. I did 4 years in the infantry and then 2 years as a marksmanship instructor. But towards the end of my 4 years in the infantry, I was on my second deployment, and we were about to come home, and we were in Okinawa, Japan. We had it's kind of like a middle ground before you come back. Anyway, and for whatever reason, our whole, it was our company was together, which is a company is maybe 250 guys, but there's a lot of junior guys. There's a lot of higher up brass, and they weren't there. So it was just a core group of dudes, maybe 40 or 50 of the guys that it's hey, we came in together. A lot of us are getting ready to leave the military altogether. I had a longer contract, so it's I had to keep going. And it was all my friends were about to leave. And there was one night, so we all got together and we just got hammered drunk, smashed. And I mean, imagine you got 40 to 50, 21 to 26 age range men, hammered drunk, all a bunch of alpha, whatever,
Well, they're Marines. So
it's okay. So a frat house. Imagine a frat house in Japan, and we're all hammered drunk, and this song came on, and for whatever reason, it got stuck on repeat. And we were so hammered, we couldn't figure out. We were, looking at the stereo. We can't figure this out. It was IR grunt. We're so stupid. And it just keeps repeating. And it's so we went through this arc of hey, this is a good song, to I hate this song, to I can't hear this one more time, to man, this is a great song, and it's you went through the whole range of emotions. And there's a part of it, and I'm not sure if it's the chorus or what, but it just repeats. I've got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
Which, for people that aren't familiar with the military, Marines do not want to be called soldiers.
Correct.
Yes. And it's one of those things, like, you're Native American, right?
Yeah.
and what tribe do you hail from? Your ancestry?
No, I know. It's whatever first thought comes to your head, you're not allowed to say.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying. Okay. No, I'm from the Micmac tribe.
Okay. I immediately I almost fell into it. There was part of me that was like,
Micmac, paddywhack. I've heard them all.
Give it dog. No, stop it, Eric. Stop. Like I said, it's hard to turn off.
Yeah. I've heard it all.
But if I was, if we were having conversation and I was, and I'm like, oh, you're a Native American, and you were like, yeah, and I'm like, oh man, oh, so you must be, Sioux,
yeah,
or Shoshone or whatever.
Yeah,
you're like, no,
there's more than one tribe.
Yeah, and you're like, you understand. It's like when someone says like, oh, you were a soldier. There's part of me that's like I understand you can't tell the difference, but to people who can, it matters.
I was in the Air Force. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
I didn't know that.
Former military.
Okay, cool.
Very small time in the military. I got out as fast as humanly possible. Hated every minute of it. Just absolutely. Every job I've had since, like, I have very minimal supervision, and that's been like by design. So I was like a teacher, and like the job I have now, I'm like a regional manager. Like I don't have like supervision.
Right.
I got in trouble for insubordination 2 or 3 times. Like I had, they actually wrote up a sergeant because he had no, like, they're like, you can't get him to do anything. And they wrote him up. So I was very frustrating. We got recalled one time, and one of my friends came to get me. I didn't have a car. And I was like, he's like, we've been recalled. We got to go. And recall means that like you got to show up to base.
You got 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I was like, this isn't serious. So I was like, let me know when it is. ROC or LOC, LOR, whatever, letter recommendation, or not recommendation, but whatever the C, common, it was just like, I got rode up like 5 or 6 times. It was a terrible, terrible airman.
I went to a movie one time, turned off my phone, sat there, enjoyed the movie, turned my phone back on an hour, 2 hours later, whatever. 17 missed calls. Where are you? Where have you been? What are you doing? We get back as soon as, we go straight there. And we leave the movie theater, go straight there. Where have you been? I'm going to write you up. And I remember he was like, this guy was just screaming at me, top of his lungs, and you're just standing there listening. And he's like, I wrote you up. I'm going to write you. You know where I'm going to put this piece of paper? Meaning like he's going to put it in my file.
Yeah.
And I just, without even thinking, I was like, I know exactly where you can put it. And then immediately we're like, it's just like, and you're like, whatever, man.
And 4 penny and 4 pound. You're already in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what more? Like, what more could you do at that point?
Well, I mean, Uniform Code of Military Justice,
USMC,
right? UCMJ
or UCMJ. Yeah.
If you're late an hour or 29 days, it's the same punishment.
That's right.
So if you miss it, if you miss that window and you're like, yeah, fuck it, let's let it ride.
Let it ride. I mean? Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on
you
here.
You can. It's fine. One that always tripped me up, that always fascinated me in terms of the code, is explain to somebody that getting sunburnt was damage to government property. Like whenever you try to explain that to somebody, they're like, "That's not true," and it's like, "No, it's absolutely true."
Yeah, you get in
like
trouble,
if I did something and lost an arm, like that's like a court-martialable offense.
Well, go find it.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I'm not talking about losing it on the battlefield or something like that. I'm talking like a stupid mistake, like a motorcycle wreck or something. Motorcycle wrecks were like big deal. Have you gotten
man? I've known so many. Segueing back to the song real quick, is that the reason that this song means so much to me is that it was the last time a lot of these guys we were all in the same room together.
Yeah.
And very soon after that, we came back from Japan. We were in California. And I mean, within weeks, everybody's going off their different directions, you know, whether they continued in the military or got out, went to civilian life, you know, and like I was in that room. There were guys that were originally from Juarez, Mexico, and then there were guys from Duluth, you know, and it's like, we will never be together again. And then so many of them are not alive anymore.
Yeah.
Like so many, whether it's suicide or motorcycle wrecks or just accidents or just random heart, you know, like, or like there's guys that are in prison. There's guys that are not in the country anymore. There's guys that people are like, nobody's heard from this guy in 6 years.
Yeah.
Like even the guys that were his best friend are like, yeah, man,
off the grid.
One day I called and his phone was off and I
have no way of getting hold of him.
Yeah, we have, you know, and so it's like, it would be physically impossible to recreate that moment, recreate that night where
all the things,
all these things that I've done, you know what I mean? And it's like, we're sitting there and we're drunk and we're singing and we're like jumping up and stuff because it builds.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it starts
and it builds
off with
that part that you talked about where the, you know, I got soul. It's such a powerful, even if you had no connection to the song whatsoever, it's such a powerful moment in that song. And it really just, I mean, it's great, you know.
So the thing is that like when one of your buddies dies, you always say like, so sorry.
Oh God, no! Like, please.
You always say like, "Hey, well, you know, I'll never forget you.
Yeah.
I'll always remember this or whatever." And then the years go on, and the death count goes up, and then somebody just simply says like, "Oh, how many friends have you lost to motorcycle accidents?" And you're like 3, and then a couple hours later, you're like, "Oh shit, no, it's 5."
Yeah.
And you're like, I did forget.
Yeah.
I forgot about, you know, Horner. I forgot about, I don't know if, you know, McCarthy. Like I'm skeptical about whether I give out actual names, but then it's like, nah, like keep it alive, you know?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so it's like, man, I promised I'd never forget, but I've already kind of forgot sometimes, you know? And you're like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know if there's tissue over there.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like,
all right. You want to take a second?
No.
Okay.
We ride.
All right.
We ride.
No, and in this summer, I lost a friend to a motorcycle accident. Yeah. And he was a very close friend. Like, we had texted that day, and then, like, you know, they had to pull the plug, you know. And it was just devastating, you know, because it's like, the Chili Peppers were here on my birthday, so July 30th.
Okay.
There you go. 2 days before Harry Potter. Day before Harry Potter's is what I always tell people. I just think it's funny. And he couldn't come, and so we were all there. Like, his wife was there and everything else. And, you know, he calls me. He's like, "Oh, no, we're going to get together this weekend or whatever." And, like, that was, you know, like, I hadn't seen him. Like, I just, that was it, you know? Like, no, I do get it.
Which is a great segue into your song.
We'll get there. I do want to talk about this song a little bit more because you talked about, like, do you know the history behind this song?
No, I don't know any of this. So, like, I don't know any of the backstory or anything.
I thought that's why you chose it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the backfield, do you know who Matt Penfield is from MTV?
Nope.
So he used to be a VJ. Remember when a VJ was a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so a video disc jockey, but they just shortened it to VJ. Because I guess VDJ just didn't roll off the tongue, you know? Yeah, video jockey.
VD together. Yeah. It's like, unless it's Victory in Europe, you're like, all right, VD.
He was the A&R guy at their record label, and he was talking to him. So the Killers were signed. They had Mr. Brightside, and they were making their album. And then my favorite band, Interpol of all things, they heard that album, and they blew up their album. Like, they were like, this isn't good enough. Like, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard it a couple times. So I don't know how much they blew up, but they started reworking it. And they met Matt Pinfield, and he was talking about his work with veterans of all things. And this is the reason why I thought you chose the song, is that Matt Pinfield has done all this work, and he's like, and these are all the things that I've done.
Huh.
And he actually wrote a book about his autobiography about his work with veterans and PTSD. I really thought that like this is what we were going to talk about, and that will lead to our song in a minute, but or my song. But yeah, so that this song is about veterans, like all the things I've done. I've got soul, but I'm not a soldier. Like they're literally talking about people who had been in the military.
No shit.
No shit.
Okay.
So
Matt?
like you couldn't have picked like a more relatable song to everything that you've done, and you had no idea. Which is
That's
just
so crazy.
incredible. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I had no idea. It was just a song that got stuck on repeat.
Yeah. No.
One night.
It's like, nowhere to run. I want to stand up. I want to let go. Like, all of that is just another headache, another heartbreak. That's all connected to, like, being a veteran. And it's all from this work from Matt Penfield, who was a VJ at MTV, and his work with soldiers who had PTSD.
That's crazy.
So,
okay.
And what's funny about that is the Genius. So I don't know if you ever go on Genius to look up song lyrics.
No.
I did before, but now it's like pretty much part of the podcast, right? I've got to look up what the songs mean or whatever, at least to have something to talk about. And it's so wrong. It talks because Brandon Flowers is Mormon, and it talks about how he was. It was him supposed to go on missions and stuff like that, but that's not even remotely true. Like this song is literally about like helping soldiers and like being, and their plight, which is just kind of funny that the Genius is so wrong. And if you go to the Wikipedia page, it's like, this is what the song's about. Here's how it's connected to this, and here's the history behind it, and like references and everything else is just completely wrong.
I love that when they're like, oh, well, this is what it's about.
Yeah,
and
it's like, no. Right. I mean, and they always say like it's up to interpretation, but sometimes like some songs are just not, and this wasn't one of them. This is just like this is what the song's about, man. Like we heard this guy say this phrase, and he helped these soldiers, and we wrote a song about it. So, speaking of soldiers, war, stuff like that, what was the song I gave you? I give everybody a song. I make them talk about a song I like. So I'm sorry.
New Year's Day.
Yeah,
New Year's Day by U2.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I listened to it a couple times last night.
Had you heard it before I gave it to you?
No.
You? Never.
No. Do you know my buddy Rick?
Probably. Maybe.
Tall, white guy, bald.
Sure, maybe.
He comes to Mike's a lot. If you saw him, you'd be like, oh, yeah, this guy.
Okay.
Right. Cool dude. Well, he had heard it a bunch.
Yeah.
So when I played it, I was like, I got to listen to this song. And he was like, oh, you've never heard this? And I'm like, I am not familiar with this at all.
Yeah.
And so we listened to it a couple times, and it was like, it brought up so many like memories of he's like, oh, man. I listened to this at a bar in blah, 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 like, because he's a Florida guy and like
a Florida guy, like trademark.
Oh, yeah. As one of the things we talked about last night is that like, he's a great guy. I love him to death.
Yeah.
And, but it's like, hey, as someone who has dabbled in sketchiness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we know what to. It's funny that like he's lived a million different lives, or whatever. But yeah, he was telling me stories about New Year's Day. Obviously, you play it at midnight, New Year's Eve, and like all the like he was going through these stories, and I was just like, oh man, I guess I don't connect to songs like that. Like I'll hear it and be like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, oh, I enjoy it. And he's like, no. And he gets into, he might be a good guest just to have, if you just want to have somebody to talk to, he's great at like, oh no, that reminds me of this song and this song and this song.
Well, I mean, you said you didn't have a connection. You had a very, very specific connection to all the things I've done. So don't discount yourself. It's just maybe you don't think about it at the time.
I just didn't think about it. Yeah. I just thought about. I mean, it's just a catchy. To be honest, even though the words are right in front of me, I couldn't tell you 90% of them except for I got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's just because it repeats. And then that night, it probably played 20 times over the course of 2 hours. And afterwards, you're just like, and plus blackout drunk. But right, but what particularly about this? Oh, also, I've never really been into U2.
Yeah.
I don't dislike their music.
Right.
I just never connected to it. You know what I mean? And
I'm a huge fan of early U2. And by like the pop album, I don't know. You probably don't know specific albums. If I told you like song like Zootopia, Pop, those are like names of albums of U2. Like at a certain point, I was just like, this is oversaturation. Like I've seen you too much. You're around everywhere. Like you're omnipresent. And then you shoved an album on my phone, which they famously did to everyone. And it was like, okay, I can't deal with you guys anymore.
Yeah. So my first experience with U2 was the song Vertigo.
Yeah.
Because when that came out, it was everywhere.
And
I was so sick of it after a while. I didn't know anything. So it's like for a long time when U2 would come up, I'd be like, U2.
Right.
And then, they drop the album and nobody, it would interrupt your shuffle play. And you'd be like, what song is this?
And on top of it, it wasn't like a great album.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you gave me like Sunday Bloody Sunday or New Year's Day. You gave me like these weird ass songs that like I can't relate to. Like they're not good songs. Go back and listen to the album. It's not good. You have it. Everybody does. Everybody does.
We can't get rid of it.
They literally had to release a patch. Apple did to like remove the album from your library. You like had to like install something on your computer to like double click it to remove the album from your like your license items or whatever. I chose a song. You struggled giving me a song, like one song. I got to come up with songs for everyone who comes on here. Yeah. And they've got to like connect in some way, shape, or form. I try to make them connect in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, I'm just handing out Interpol songs to everybody. It's like, here's my 5th favorite Interpol song. Like, let's just talk about that. It's like, well, what do you think of this? Or I'm just handing out like, Kendrick Lamar tracks. There'd be something. I would just be handing you songs that I love.
Well, here's heart-shaped box. Enjoy. Right. Yeah.
Well, we did talk about Nirvana with Chris Sear recently. Oh
my gosh. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
You're fine.
My daughter the other day called Nirvana divorced dad rock. And I was just like on behalf of Kurt Cobain, like I want to fight you. You know what I mean? Like Nirvana's cool, all right? Divorced dads, that's like Jimmy Buffett. All right? That's not cool. All right, that's a guy who works on the
all
beach.
Of this like dad rock now, though.
I know,
like the Black Keys,
and they were like, "Oh yeah, let a millennial Jada."
She loves Nirvana.
Okay, I was about to say, Black Keys divorced dad rock. We're gonna have fisticuffs. Yeah, exactly. It was, be tomfoolery up in here.
So, they were listening to U2 while they were recording Hot Fuss. So that was like one connection. And then this song is literally about a soldier in Russia during World War II.
Okay.
And I was like, there you go. Like, this is the song while you're when you're dealing with it. And then you have the song after you've dealt with it. And that was a connection. I love this song so much. This is my... This and Sunday Bloody Sunday are like 1 and 2 in terms of U2 songs. I love early U2. They were still trying to get their message, not like now where it's like this global, but it was like Ireland sucks. We have these constant civil wars, and like we don't know how to deal with it, you know. And that was a lot of their music. So it was like it made sense, you know. And then as they got bigger and bigger, they're like, let's solve like hunger in Africa, and it's like okay. And then you become a joke on South Park, and then it's like.
Which, as far as jokes on South Park go, top tier.
Yeah, I mean that, and then like the gay fish with Kanye, like nothing will ever top those two.
That was on the other night. Rick and I went to. You ever been to El Chupacabra across from Helium? It's so great. Their kitchen stays open till like 12:45 or something, so you can go there after a show. And we were sitting there, and up on the screen, they were playing. It was just South Park reruns, and the gay fish episode came on, and I was like, "Dude, this episode is so good." Yeah, and I was like, they had it muted, you know, because it's a bar. Like, they're playing music.
As long as
there's
the subtitles on, like that's.
There weren't even subtitles, so I was trying to explain to him, just like, okay, and now Cartman is going to school and he's telling it like that, and then it's like, It's so great.
It's a great episode.
Top tier.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the episode. And there's not like it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know this was about war, like all the time. And then I asked you to rewatch the video. I hadn't watched the video in years, and there's like guns going off, and there's like battlefield images and stuff like that. And I'm like, I really should have made this connection a lot sooner. But the big catch in terms of just in war in general is like the last verse. It's like we were told this is the golden age, and gold is the reason for the wars we wage. And he wrote a letter to his girlfriend, his wife, or whatever. He's like, I just want to be with you night and day. And he's like, nothing changes on New Year's Day.
That last line, that hit me so hard.
Yeah.
That hit, oh man, because it's like, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that, like, I don't know. It seemed like he was just exhausted. Like the way he sings it.
The delivery is perfect.
Nothing changes on New Year's Day.
Just
where it's like everybody thinks, oh, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, at midnight, New Year, new me.
Yeah. Not for them.
No. It's more of the same.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but you could change. You can only change you.
Yeah.
The world around you, the politics and the whatever is going on, it's hard for one man, especially one soldier, and what I took from this is that he's not high up on the chain of command.
No. He's just like on a wall somewhere.
Peon, you know what I mean? What can he change?
Right.
Nothing. But maybe tomorrow will be better, you know what I mean? But nothing changes on New Year's Day.
No.
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah, and then who knows if he even he's a Russian soldier in World War II. Odds are he's the first guy in the skis who has one bullet, and the guy behind him has the clip.
When the man with the rifle dies, the man with the ammo picks up and carries on.
Correct. One thing I do want to point out, the Edge. He's the guitar player from U2. So So there's Bono, then there's the Edge. The Edge is the one who really makes guitar sounds, make them sound cool. Plays piano and guitar at the same. So it's a quartet, it's four of them, and they don't bring on extra players like some bands do, to round out the sound or whatever. It's just the four. It's like Metallica does the same thing. They don't bring out extra players to play parts or cover up whatever they're doing. That's just them. And Edge plays guitar and keyboard at the same time on this song. And the live versions is just crazy because he's just wailing the guitar, and then he's got the keyboard right in front of him, and he'll just go back and forth. I'm just just amazing work. I can't play guitar, I'm terrible. So I can do this. I can make it look like I play guitar, and I can play Blitzkrieg Bop pretty decently. Anything that's 2 chords and very fast, I can kind of hammer it out, but nothing else.
Well,
and this dude's playing piano at the same time.
When I was in 7th grade, I took 2 semesters of trumpet.
Uh-huh.
And if you need someone to hit hot cross buns,
I know a guy.
I
know a guy.
I'm just saying. All right. My buns might not be as hot anymore, but they're still crossed, damn it. Nice. And So, no, I have zero musical talent. So when I watch something like that, I didn't know that. I know Bono.
Yeah.
I know Bono. I know Vertigo. I know the album people didn't want. And I'm like, bleh.
And that's the extent of your YouTube knowledge. I think that's a good, well-rounded, they were really popular, and then they just started annoying the fuck out of everybody.
It's like you hit the high note. You know what I mean? And it's but I listened to this, and the second time I listened to it, I kind of got lost in it, and then it ended, And I looked up at Rick, and he was like, what? And I go, I think I'm a U2 fan now. Like that. He was like, what? And I was like, damn, they got me. I'm a U2 fan now. And he's like, yeah, they're good, man.
They sold out the Sphere for
oh yeah, which
20 dates.
You should have Sean O'Brien come do this.
He's lined up.
Yeah, he went to the U2 concert at the Sphere.
Yeah,
and you guys could talk for 6 hours about that probably.
Yeah. No, he is lined up. He was aware that I reached out to him just recently, and I was like, "Hey, man, would you do the podcast?" Right around the same time I reached out to you.
I see. I love that. I love that. When I first started, I was very scared to ask people to come do my podcast because I was like, I know, like, I have an idea or I have like a free floating form of an idea.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I ask someone to do it and they're like, no, that's stupid. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's dumb. Whatever. But then you realize, like, no, a lot of comics are like, you want me to come and talk about me for hell yeah. Okay.
Right, yeah.
I'll sit down and talk about myself, you know? And it's like, okay, well, hey, I'm going to do this fun thing. Do you want to come and try to have fun with me?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And it's so weird that it's like, as adults, we're basically like trying to figure out. Like, I watched my son the other day. We went to a park and there were some kids playing, and I could see he was kind of looking at them, and I was like, go.
Yeah, just go talk to them.
Go figure it.
Yeah.
You know, and I watched, and within 30 seconds, they were playing dinosaurs, then ninjas, then Space Rangers, you know, whatever. And it was like, it was so easy for them to be like, you like cool stuff? I like cool stuff. Let's go do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, but as adults, we're like, I like cool stuff. Do you like cool? Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Do you ever get any cool stuff? You know, you're like, I've got some cool stuff. You want to do some cool stuff? Yeah. You know, and it's so weird that it's hard. So it's like I've started reaching out to more people, and it's like I've had people that I've asked, like, hey, would you ever want to come do this? And they're like, yeah, man, I really want to come do it, but I was scared to ask you because I thought you didn't want me. And it's like, no, man, I thought you wouldn't want to come do this. I didn't want to bother you. You know what I mean? Like Meredith Hopping. I invited her once a very long time ago, but it was in the middle of the school year. She's a teacher. She's also a mother of 3 kids. She's a very busy person. And she's like, I'm very busy right now. I'd like to do it, but I just can't. And then she came up to me one time and was like, hey, I'd like to come do it. And I was like, you would? What? Okay, let's do this.
Right,
yeah. When works? Friday? Are you good Friday or Saturday? And she's like, Saturday. I'm like, how about 1? She was like, okay. And we sat down and we recorded like a 2.5 hour podcast, and we were just having fun. Like, we were just riffing, and you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
that. And I just, in my head, I was like, this is dumb. She won't. She doesn't want to come be dumb with me. You know, she's a real adult. You know what I mean? Like,
a real adult.
She's busy being a real adult, and it's like she doesn't have time to come be dumb with me. You know?
Yeah. I just had the idea, and then I was just like, I started reaching out to people. I'm like, hey, I got this dumb idea, and I was like, you want to come on? And we had 8 episodes filmed before we released 1. I don't know how we pulled that off in hindsight, but we just gave ourselves like a good gap to like kind of try and figure, and we're still figuring things out. Like the microphones, this is our second episode with these, and you have headphones on, which I'm morally opposed to, but it's fine. You know, but it worked. Because I was like, eventually we'll just all have headphones and it'll just be like every other podcast. And it's just like, but you sold me on it because you were like, I need them to hear. And I was like, all right, that's fine.
I mean, I get it. You like to raw dog a podcast.
I do.
I'm a protection man. I'm cautious.
I just want to talk to people. Like, really, I want to like look people in the eye. I want to like talk to them. Like, I want, like, if you're going to come on here and you're going to tell me about a song, like, I really want to talk to you about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, and that is why I like these headphones.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not wearing them and someone walks by,
that's it.
I'm immediately like focusing on like, what kind of shoes make that noise? You know, like I'm.
Well, that makes sense for you then. That's perfect.
You know, but this is like, it's like blinders on a horse. It's like, now I can focus. You know what I mean?
It worked out perfectly. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you having me, man.
Was there any last word on U2 that you wanted to get in there, or the Killers or anything?
Oh, man. No. I mean, if I thought about it for long enough, I could be like, oh, well, let's do Mr. Brightside and let's do whatever. No, but one song that I kind of like after I gave you this, there's one song that I was like, I kind of wish I would have given.
Well, hold on to it because maybe you'll come back. So don't tell me now.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I just tell you the song title name?
If you
we won't get into.
You keep it under wraps.
All right.
Maybe off the pod because that way if you come back, then it's some people, something to give.
Oh,
it's
man.
a hook. It's a hook to come. When Eric Rueseler comes back, he's got a song already.
Oh, well, stay tuned, listeners. All right.
So speaking of, so you just took a glance. Give me your socials. How do you find you? Tell them about your other the podcast that we're going to do here in a minute.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, if you want, just a quick thought, I'll run through a couple questions from my podcast. When you get this edited, send me the video.
Okay.
And then I'll put your podcast out on my channel, and it's like a cross promotion thing. And then how people can come find you. And then
so we're going to record yours here now.
Let's just keep recording. I'll run through a couple quick questions.
Okay. Well, then you're going to give out your socials first. Let's do that. Yes.
Okay. It's at ER Comedy on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, like to find my podcast and stuff like that. On Facebook, it's Eric Rueseler Comedy. My last name is Rueseler. I cannot stand Facebook. I don't know. I hate it. You go on there and it's like I have like 6 followers. It's like my mom and someone I went to high school with. You know,
people follow you. I just turned my profile into like a professional profile, and that seems to work. I don't have like I have a page for this podcast, but I don't have a page for like me being a comic.
Literally everything I do, so everything that I put out, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, also goes to Facebook. Mm-hmm. So if that's your preferred method, you can find it. But I have no I don't know what I've done to anger the Facebook
gods,
deities, because they will not. Instagram, I can have a clip on Instagram that I have one that has over 4 million views.
Yes,
this is the exact same clip.
I was there that night.
Oh, see, okay. Are you talking about the
funniest? Yeah,
yeah. No, this is a podcast clip. So I have a podcast clip with Sean O'Brien actually, and it got over 4 million views on Instagram. Facebook, 6. And I was like, how does that?
How does that happen?
It's the same company. Meta owns both of you.
Yeah. I don't know.
You know, and then like I'll have something on TikTok. It's 700,000 views. Mm-hmm. YouTube Shorts
3,
4.
Yeah,
and you're like, what is happening?
Right? Yeah.
You know, I don't understand it.
I don't get the algorithms either. It just shows up, and then people catch it, and it's like different demographics and
so
whatever.
I went to school after the military. After I bounced around a couple of different jobs, I went to school to learn cinematography, audio recording, mixing, and stuff like that. Because I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I didn't know what I wanted that podcast to be. I just I want people to be able to get to know me.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to post stand-up clips because then when you come see me live,
you've already seen it.
You've seen it.
I don't know if that really is a thing. We can talk. We should hold that thought for the other podcast. But
yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. So yes, at ER Comedy, if you would like to come find me. I hate the word follow because I'm not leading anybody anywhere. Yeah. But if you want to come hang out at ER Comedy.
Perfect. And I'm at Jeffrey Phipps, JEFFERY _Phipps at Instagram, Jeffrey Phipps on Facebook, everywhere else. I specifically want you to follow me. I do view myself as a leader of generation of people. Can't say it with a straight face. But anyway, and then the podcast, you're already here, but we are on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Amazon Podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio. Anywhere where you can get a podcast, I set up an RSS feed, and we're there.
It's crazy. You know, you do say, I mean, leader of generations. It's what we wrote on your locker. You know what I mean? So it's like...
Yeah, actually, they were just stuffing me in the locker. and then they wrote it ironically with quotes around it. So
leader of generations.
I was I graduated high school, I was 5'6", and then really? I shot up to like 5'10". Like I had a 4-inch growth spurt like when I was like 18. I have no idea.
That's crazy.
It was. I was a small guy, and like people saw me and they were like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I don't know, steroids. I have no idea. Growth hormones."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get too personal if you don't want to. But like, do you feel like that carried over a little bit? Like, do you ever see yourself as like a small guy?
No.
And then realize like
not anymore. I used to see myself as a thin guy when I was thin, and I wish those days would return, but those are long gone.
That's weird. I have always seen myself as fat. Even when I was at my like absolute most fit, I was like, I'm a fat guy. I was embarrassed of like everything. And my wife sent me a picture the other day of me, and I was 22 and I was in the Marines, and I was I'm 6'6". I don't know if anybody can tell, but I was 6'6", maybe like 205. So I was lean, like lean. And I remember taking that photo and being like, man, I'm so fat. Ugh, I'm so like I wish I had everybody else, guys have abs, like deep abs. And it's like, I've got a couple lines, but it's like, it's not like cut, and I'm like, I'm fat.
In hindsight, I'm
disgusting. And it's like, now looking back on it, I'm like, I don't think it's physically possible for me to look like that again.
Ever again, no.
Ever again.
Probably not.
I would bar me being a prisoner of war in North Korea for 6 months, do you know what it would take for me to get back to that?
I don't know.
And that was in my mind. Yeah. It was like, so
you thought you were just huge then.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy is that I've always had that mentality of like, oh, I'm fat. That one day I just kind of stopped trying.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if I'm going to be fat, I'll just be fat.
Gotcha.
And I'll just like accept it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to kind of like round that corner again, just like with this song. I hated it, whatever, and then I accepted it, and now I'm starting to round the corner again of being like, nothing changes on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
But I can change.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can change the way I think about this, and I'm enjoying it better. Like I'm
accepting of who you are.
I'm just accepting it, and like, but also like, hey, let's do a little better today than we did yesterday.
Sounds good.
You know what I mean? Like let's cut back a little bit on. All right, yesterday, man, I went off the rails. I had 4 slices of pizza in a gas station parking lot in between meetings with people because it's like, oh, I need a quick bite. And it's like, today, let's do 2 slices of pizza. You know what? And tomorrow,
maybe 1.
Maybe 1. How about this? Maybe next week we just get a small bag of beef jerky, snack on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's got to be a little bit better than a piece of pizza. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like, it's so basic, it's so simple for everybody else, but it's like me at almost 35 being like, oh, okay, make a good decision. Oh, yeah.
Everybody lives like that, though. So let's close this out, and then we can continue our conversation, just so we have like an end point for this part. So I close out with this. So again, Gimme A Song, ER Comedy for Eric, Jeffrey Phipps, and Gimme A Song everywhere. So thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends, tell your pets, and thank you.
Do you think seaweed knows it's seaweed? On behalf of Kurt Cobain, like, I want to fight you.
I'm like, hey, I got this dumb idea. Side effects include one or more of the following: homelessness, loss of earwax, obsession with turkeys, narcissism. And then that's the close. Let's pause this real quick, and then we can just restart it all.
Yeah.